Hello, hello. Welcome to the King Jeff podcast. It's my pleasure to be here serving you in this effort to improve the community and fulfill the will of God for my life. It's on and popping. I'm all in. I'm fully encouraged that all the things that take place, that restoration is going to happen. It's going to happen. I know we're planting good seeds in good ground and that the people are going to respond. Because everybody wants to be successful, whether they know how to get there or not, or how to even look as if they're manifesting it. If you ask everyone, gave them their free will choice to choose success or failure, they'll choose success. So we're going to go in. If someone wants to come on to the chat and the podcast, I sent the link out and invited those of you who are interested. Join us. Okay, well, today's podcast, yesterday we talked about where did we go from here. We dealt with today and our present circumstances, and we had to build a foundation for what it is that brought us to this point. I believe that the time is now and urgency is now. The times are calling for us to get extremely involved right now to do the very best that we can to curve the culture and take ownership of it. We have to take control of it. So as the ULA, the Matrix Financial Group, and the King Jeff podcast, we're creating a royal culture. And we want the community and need the community to take part in it. Okay, now the sense of urgency that's required for our community to drive or think differently. I understand that everyone to this point have their own lives and their own perspective in terms of how they think the community is performing right now. Most people are doing pretty well on their own, but that's the thing that we're really addressing. It's not about us ourselves. It's about us doing what we need to do for the entire group. So that's the mentality that we want us to consider. So now today we're going to be discussing the state of our union and what's the purpose for the urgency that we absolutely have to get involved in. Currently, the trillions of dollars that are spent outside of the African American community by African Americans is staggering. Past $4 trillion. That's a lot of money to export when we're trying to empower our own community. We can't afford to do that. So that's why the ULA decided to, in the King Jeff podcast, had to give critical attention to our businesses and how we have to flip the game. It's not optional. So it's time out for individuals doing their own thing and dragging out the process of being able to create, the business and generate the influence that will, curve the flow of money that's outside of our community to their entity. We have to have it. So the best thing that we did, and the first thing that we did, we said we were going to focus on um, partnership. The best way to deal with a giant, and this is a giant situation that we're dealing with, but it is surmountable. It's not insurmountable. We can conquer and overcome this. But the best way to deal with the giant is to make sure you can overpower him. That's what you have to do. You have to defeat it, or you can outsmart them. You have to be strategic in how you do so. Even when David in the Bible story fought Goliath, he wasn't dumb enough to run up on this giant and physically take him on. He would have got demolished, unless, in the will of God, he would have been, it was his will to be shown strong. But in that case, he used a slingshot to conquer from a distance. That was intelligent. So we're going to have to use intelligence to right this wrong that our community continues to suffer from. That excretion of that type of money by the dominant culture, or people who don't have our best interests at heart. They have their best interests at heart. And I understand that. The system has been created for that. We understand that as well. So we're not complaining, not to the people who are benefiting the most. Like, they don't want to hear our belly aching, and nor do I want to spend any time engaging them on it. They're not my problem. They're not the ones who I need to be talking to. So, dealing with the state of our union and why it's so necessary for people to get involved. We have to create this urgency in our own minds. That's the purpose for all of this. The podcast, the community center, the organization, the financial group, this focus, and now reaching out to the global community and not just my local community. The word is local. Like, while we give a local emphasis, we have to have a global look. And I don't know if the person who created that word local defined it as that, but that's pretty much what it means. We have to be local as well as global minded. Even the Bible tells you to, says that gospel shall be preached in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, in the uttermost parts of the world. That means you in your local ministry should be doing things not just locally, but you should be evolving and getting involved in evangelism abroad as well. You can't assume that other people are doing the work that you've been told to do, or that you're called to do. So do your part. And that's what we're asking everybody else to do. Let's do our part to assure our own prosperity. Nobody else is going to do it for us. Okay, the state of our union, Black America. First fact, Black people in America spend 97.5% of their money with other racial groups. 97.5% of our money is spent with other racial groups. Caucasians, Hispanics, Asians, you name it. We have to keep our money inside of our borders so that we can strengthen ourselves. That's what everybody else does. So we have to get off of the bench and assure our own respect. It's hard for people to respect a people who do not provide for themselves. systemically depressed and comfortable with it. We should not be comfortable with systemic dependency for our own survival. That's a problem. That cannot go on. It's a slap in the face to our kids, and it's hypocritical for us to tell them to go and be the best you can be when as adults we're not doing that very thing. So I'm encouraging you, and I want to be as positive as possible to say, hey, we can do this, and we have to do this. Next fact: Black people own less than 5% of the businesses in their own communities and less than 2% abroad. Less than 5% in their own community and less than 2% abroad, meaning maybe 1%. And that's high. I believe that's still high. 2%, owning 2% abroad, like outside of the Black community. Wow, that's a stretch. But this is a fact. The data, this is what research shows. Fact 3. Blacks offer less than 1% of the jobs and services that they occupy and utilize. Blacks offer less than 1% of the jobs and services that they occupy and utilize. Systemic dependency. If other people, other venues have to provide our security, our wealth, they're that influential, they can pull the rug from under us at any time. That's why we have to stabilize ourselves, become more self-sufficient, self-reliant, so that our children can see differently and then do differently. Point number 4. Most Black people in America do not share common interests or goals. The absence of a collective purpose is the result of lack of unity. Most Black people in America do not share common interests or goals. The absence of a collective purpose is the result of a lack of unity. That's what this whole setting the tone for what's culturally acceptable effort is. This is a campaign that is going to take shape. There's nothing new under the sun. We're not the first to create culture, nor are we the first to create standards such as these. America and thriving countries or thriving cities, thriving communities, they all practice the same things. That's what we're doing. We're trying to instill these same standards within our community. Not a replica of what they do, but every community has culture. Every community has a visual artifact. They have visual artifacts, the abstract things that they've created with their hands, from buildings, homes, parks, pools, landscape, those types of things. Every community has ideas, unwritten thoughts that they go by. And the community is taught as right, and everybody understands. They know not to litter because it takes down the property value. So they know that keeping your property up benefits the whole. And they understand that. Also, they have written documents that everybody's subscribed by. Everyone subscribed to those written documents. Sometimes there's a HOA, but there's like community ordinances that say you have to do these things. You have to build certain things like roofs. You have buildings, a patio, anything. Like you have specs that you have to go apply to. You have to go and apply to get those specs before you even build on your property. It's an ordinance, standardization, written documents that say these are the rules that apply. Well, the Matrix Project, Way to Power. I'm recommending it highly. The Matrix Project. This is a written document that consists of our cultural codes that we believe that is going to pay huge dividends for our community to become more prosperous and self-reliant. Point 5. A disproportionate amount of African Americans underachieve, which results in their exploitation. The fact that we're underachieving below our human potential opens up the potential for exploitation. Our human potential, our gifts will make room for us. We're talented. So go out and explore the highest possibility of your capacity, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, socially. Don't just be interested in physicality and activities, performance, physically alone. Socially, we have a way to go. Get involved in politics. Get involved in community service. Mentally, let's push ourselves, not just become the bottom. Let's become like soar. Let's soar with the eagles. Let's go for the next level stuff. Things that can solidify and stabilize a community. Not just the high things, but the productive things. Becoming a manager, providing quality services. Even if you work, even if you work for, sanitation, do it to the best of your ability. Elevate. Our word for the day is elevate. Always reaching for something higher. Don't just settle in the place that you're in. You're always supposed to be reaching higher, going higher, and doing better. That's the way that it is. Next point. A large percentage of African Americans practice negative spending habits that reduce their financial leverage and increases financial hardship. They invest more in liabilities than assets, and many neglect to make provisions for future needs. We spend on liabilities as opposed to assets, things that take our money and reduce our wealth to things that make us money and increase our wealth. Spending everything today prevents you in increasing your legacy tomorrow or improving your legacy tomorrow. You're supposed to leave an inheritance for your children and hopefully and want it to affect their children. Leave a foundation of growth and strength so that those who follow can lead and operate thereby. You want them to be better than you. So we have to leave them something, rather it's instruction, it's the way, but we also want to leave some type of provision, monetary provision, so that they can carry on after our departure, whether it's death or after we leave, whether they step into adulthood. We want to give them a hand up, not a hand down. Next point. And before I move on, considering the liability conversation, you have to learn. We have to learn what the market says. Like, there are things that make life easier for people, like spending on the right things that makes life easier for you. Like being aware of what the market is saying, interacting with like-minded people, thinkers. That's why you have to partner with like-minded people, intelligent people, healthy people who understand the need for partnership and for prosperity, productivity. They don't waste time. So it'll be good for you to find people who take care of business. Next point, many African Americans mistake vain material acquisitions and haughty images for real power. Buying cars and clothes and things like that that make them try to project power and strength. They mistake vain material acquisitions and haughty images for real power, real influence, prestige, and authority. Okay, find this example. Having a high class wardrobe with a low class bank account. Having a big time vehicle, but not a big time bank account. And I understand the market, and it makes you more comfortable because you're perceived better by external people, but you have to do what's best for you long term. So you can't get caught up in the short term gain. You have to be in for the long game. Storms are going to come, possibly, very likely. You have to be able to endure your storms. Don't be a haughty spender. Don't waste money. Invest in assets, not liabilities. Next point. Most African Americans do not produce their own necessities, such as clothes, transportation, homes, or food. Those are things that are needed to survive. And most Black folks are interested in spirituality to some degree. Well, where are we getting our sources from? Do we even make provisions for ourselves? Do we provide those things? Most likely, the answer is absolutely not. Everyone else is benefiting off of our hard work. You work, you receive, and then you give your leverage right back. Money is power. Leverage is power. Okay, we have to get that knowledge so we can walk in real power. We have to understand. Okay, next point. And I only have a few more. Most Black communities suffer from inadequate leadership. Current learning systems fail to develop sufficient Black leadership, meaning your school is not doing a good job of producing leadership to all of its students. Actually, most schools do not even address leadership at all. The dominant culture or the thriving cultures, they already have this written in the fabric of their culture. Whether it's right, wrong, or otherwise, their children understand, their citizens understand that they absolutely have to lead and that there are people that are available to lead. You're not a leader if nobody's following you. They clearly understand that if you suppress people enough, all human beings have needs and services. They know how to identify the people who are not making provisions for themselves. So they're like, just go get involved in it. The system supports that. They get loans quickly. They have old money that was earned or stolen, either way, but they have that leverage or they know how to create it. Society is friendly to them. If they go to a college, let's say that they're poor, extremely poor. They don't have to look poor, or truthfully, most of them, even if they're wealthy, they don't dress haughty like, unless they're in a market that requires that type of high fashion. But many guys that have lots of money and they're part of the power structure, they don't dress or show it. So that's easy for just a person who have common traits as them, the same race, same color, all those things, to just merge into those avenues without problem and look like they belong, act like they belong. And they have a shoe in, easy road inside of wealth generation and being around wealth. So from an African American perspective, that's not always the case. So we said that most Black communities suffer from inadequate leadership. Current learning systems fail to develop sufficient Black leadership. Learning systems. Where are these learning systems? Before everybody start thinking we're talking schools. Well, first of all, that's not the only place that kids are conditioned. But we're talking about, I'm just going to name some of the main learning systems that African Americans attend or where they go. So all of them are responsible for conditioning your mind to teach you culture. It's teaching you what is right, rather it's right, wrong, or otherwise. Wherever you go, wherever you spend time, these things are teaching you and endorsing how you think, because culture is all the things that people do in the society in which they live. These are some of the learning systems that fail to develop Black leadership. The family interactions and development. Families are not doing a good job of raising up children to be leaders, nor are the adults being leaders. So you really can't blame the kids when the adults are not effective leaders that are relevant. Being given a title that's not relevant, it's not helpful. But everywhere you go, you want to be ascend to leadership. That's the goal. Next learning system that's failing to develop Black leadership: schools, colleges, universities. Next, community interventions. Your community centers, your athletic programs, your leagues, your clubs, we're all failing. Your sororities, your fraternities, and they're doing much better than most, probably all. Ministries, they'll give you a title of leader, but there's really the main guy rarely really press to develop that type of leadership. However, it's good to be a part of a leadership team in whatever capacity that you serve. That we named family interactions. We said schools, colleges, universities. We said community intervention. All of those things fail to develop leadership when they have active rosters, active participants, and a audience that consistently shows up. So how do they not develop these citizens who come into their spaces consistently, repetitiously? Like it's time out for that. That's unacceptable. Racial, ethnic, cultural nurturing. Our people don't place enough emphasis on leadership because the masses are not striving for leadership. Our standard of execution to project that in the culture is not being effective. So we have to take it to another level. Partnership. If someone's doing something effective in one quarter of the area, we have to join in with them, link into them, find out what they're doing, and then replicate that in our spaces. That's where that unity comes about. Everything's not competition. That's what the dominant group wants us to do: stay divided and not work together. Next, religious institutions. Churches are not doing a great job of developing leadership. Mentors as well. Mentors, they're not doing a great job of producing Black leadership. It's just true. So we don't want our mentees to be what they see. And I've heard that said several times. We want the kids to be what they see. We want the mentees to be what they see, whether they're children or adults. We want them to eclipse what they see. Push yourself to your highest capacity, the highest of your capability. Don't settle. Okay, next factor. It says 86% of African Americans fail to reach their high aptitude zones. Despite extreme capabilities, they generally perform at a low percentage of their human ability. Underperformance is not acceptable. Underperformance is not acceptable. We can't flip our culture from what we know has been very tough from our arrival here. There's a system in place that is hell bent on keeping us subjugated. This society thrives when we're suppressed. Like there's always a people to step on when we're down. So that's unacceptable for us to work at that low of a level of our human potential. We're great and we're capable. My nose is itching. So we have to perform at our highest capacity. Next, unstable family structure paralyzes most Black communities. Absent male figures, single parent households, teen parenting, and economic despair are among the main causes. The financial gap is still extremely great between the highest group, white America and Black America. We understand why, but we have to do something about it. That huge gap it's widening, and that's problematic. That's not good. We have to do something about it. But that's what these standardizations, this systemic effort of bringing in the community is about. If you're looking for a relationship, we want you to be capable of working with someone who is effective, who's healthy and good ground themselves. Partner with them. If you're looking for a relationship, if you're looking for business partners, well, this loosens your grip. This makes things much easier for you. Hook up with a business partner. If you're looking for community partners, do the same. We absolutely have to get it done. Us being disunited is killing us, and we have to do something about that. My next 2 points, and while we're encouraging business partnership and launching businesses, it says jobs keep you working and pay you 5 to 15% of the value of your labor. Obviously, the business owners are more capable of helping themselves and others secure a better future. If used wisely, your salary can earn you a business. Therefore, maximize your salary for your good. Meaning, if you're going to work on a job, maximize its effect. Save your money, plan for an escape. Do not see yourself as a worker bee for 40 years without creating another stream of income or stability. You can lose your job at any time. It's a job. You were hired to do a work. So we need you to understand that I have to stabilize myself. Don't always overspend like we were talking about before. Save, 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 and then have a vision to launch a endeavor that can create stability for you, security for you. As long as you're on a job, you don't have job security. That job can flip upside down at any point. You can lose your position there at any point. So save, begin thinking in those lines and then partnering with somebody else so that you can expedite your growth. My last point, a large percentage of African Americans fail to acknowledge or repay the debt that was paid for them by their ancestors. The partial freedoms that African Americans currently enjoy were earned by the sacrifice of others. Many endured great suffering and even gave their lives for it. Most people, most African Americans, do not pay homage to those freedom fighters who fought on their behalf in times past. We want to change that. Through the ULA, the United Leadership Alliance, we're giving you a venue to channel your homage to them. We want you to get involved with community building and community restoration and be a part of our efforts so that we can connect with other like-minded people around the globe. The Black Gold Nation, that's a great organization doing phenomenal things as well, who we've partnered up with. They're doing phenomenal things, and I recommend you get involved with the ULA, who is going to, in turn, we're working with the Black Gold Nation as well. Also, the Matrix Project Financial Group. You have to get involved with it because that's our for-profit network that's allowing members of the ULA to partner, to pool our resources and grow the industry that we see and that we know that we need. Don't talk about it. We talk too much. Who's pooling the resources that's planting these things that we need? And that's what our Matrix Financial Group is about, doing the work. If you're inside of the Matrix, you're in a bad place because the 1%ers are controlling you totally. The 1%ers are totally controlling you. I'm about to do a presentation on the Instagram podcast in the next 15 minutes about the difference between the roles of the 97%ers, the 2%ers, and the 1%ers. We want everyone to become 1%ers because those are the people who have ultimate power and are ultimately aware of what's going on. They understand what's going on in their society and in their circumstance, and they are controlling the elements, not being controlled. Okay, so I look forward to seeing you guys in the future. I thank you guys for looking in and paying attention and learning from our podcast. I need you to get involved though. Like this video, share the video, and make sure you follow us and subscribe to our YouTube page and our Facebook channel. I thank you so much. Spread the word. Let them know that the King Jeff podcast is doing phenomenal things and we need your support and we're going to get it done. The royal culture that we envision is going to come to pass, and we're going to play a major role in making sure that happens. We need you to join us so that you can be a part of this effort and a part of this move as well. Thank you. Blessings. I appreciate you guys. I will be seeing you later.